Hey, good morning everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for January 18th, 2017. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Right now we're basically holding in a very tight range. Not a whole lot to do up here at the moment. You can see this range is very narrow here. It's basically just holding these highs at the moment, trading a lot above 57s, but also staying below those 77s as well. So it's just very tightly coiled price action in here. We have a slew of reports that are out due later on today. We also have Fed Chair Janet Yellen speaking later on this afternoon, Beige Book, a couple of FOMC members speaking, so there could be some catalysts later on, but at the moment, just not a whole lot to do at this time, especially from a swing perspective. I've mentioned before that there could be the possibility to rotate back toward recent lows and into the 2214 LVN, and if that were to happen, it would offer a swing buying opportunity back up, but we're so far removed from that zone at the moment that we're continuing to just wait and see how this thing plays out, especially as the inauguration approaches. So let's look at the intraday time frame for a moment. On an intraday basis here, you can see that price basically rallied up to 2268s, rejected off that zone, and came back toward VWAP. And it's just kind of holding at the moment in 63s. At the moment, the previous session's lows here were very, very nice. Again, 57 has been 57.5, 57s have been a very nice area to do business. Very good pivot to watch. And in the previous session, we saw a couple of rotations off of 57s back toward value. So again, right now, sitting around the previous session's closing VWAP could be a little messy. We're inside the pivot range. But if this were to get outside of range here and retest 57s or just outside the zone, it could offer an opportunity to bring price back to value. So right now, the edges are 71s and 57s, and outside of that zone there, we could be looking at a fade back toward value. But as of right now, not a whole lot to do at the moment. Here's a look at crude oil. Crude oil here has gotten rollover. And what we're seeing here at the moment is just a holding pattern again. The markets are clearly in a holding pattern. You can see here over the last several days, we're just kind of pushing water around in the bathtub. 53s, 53 have been offered so far, and down here around 52s, 52.10 has been bid. So that's kind of the range at the moment. Anytime you form a narrow 4 or 5 day range like that, there is the potential for expansion at some point. You can see here that basically we have a nice trading range that is developed here, but we're chopping right at the center of that range. It's going to take price to come down here and test somewhere in this zone for it to perhaps bounce back up, or it's going to have to test above 54s for it to perhaps get pushed back toward value. Right now at these levels, again, not a whole lot to do, especially from a swing perspective just yet. So let's take a look at the intraday time frame. Here's the intraday time frame again with rollover. You've seen price kind of push downward, and we're now sitting around the previous session's close, previous week's close, and we're just chopping around at the moment. We're holding right here near the S3 standard deviation, and we're also sitting at 5240s rather. Again, support has been a little bit lower into about 5210, 5212. Here you can see very clear support zone down here. That's around the 52.10 zone. So if price were to come into this area and start to find rejection, that could be a quick opportunity to return it back toward 5-day VPOP at 52.50 with a shot to see a little bit of a move across the range into perhaps that 52.90 to 53 zone. So right now, again, we're just kind of holding on these lows, but should price come down here and sneak and test this 52.10s, that could be an opportunity to push price back up, at least for a short-term trade. All right, here's a look here at gold futures. Gold has been very, very bullish. Is currently holding in a nice little range after the recent move higher. One thing we talked about with gold is you don't want to get in front of this train right now. It's already got its momentum, it's got its speed, and it's just chugging higher at a constant pace. You can see this is very odd for how this thing is pushing higher, but it's a calculated bias that this thing is just continuing higher. There's participants coming into the market. You can see that they failed to push price back below those 45, so these participants got stuck, and ever since it's been a squeeze back up. Every pullback has been a buying opportunity, So every time price fails to hold below the previous session's low, it's been a buying opportunity. Here it held below the low for a moment, buying opportunity. And right now at the moment, you can see right here, that's the midpoint of yesterday's price discovery expansion day. That is the zone right now where bulls are looking to defend short term for a shot at retesting highs into 1220. So that could be the day trade right there. But overall, this thing continues to trend higher. Any pullback is still a buying opportunity, and this will likely persist as long as price continues to push toward that point where the breakdown occurred. And that's what I mentioned before. It could be around 1240. These are recent support lows. This is when the stops came out and price dropped. Ever since we got the box reversal, we've been pushing back up, and the goal is likely to retest this 1240 zone. So we could be looking at more upside toward 1240 as long as price continues to defend pullbacks here, especially into 1200. All right, let's take a look lastly at the NQ. The NQ here has been holding near highs. You can see price pushed up there into the 50-40 half zone and has kind of gotten stuck in that zone right now. So after the recent retest of the 49.94s, remember price pushed up, came back, there's the defense, and what we mentioned before was if they defend that zone, look for a push into new highs. We got that. But now we're just kind of sitting there. We haven't really moved. We have an inside range right now, but again, we have reports coming out later on, Fed speakers, etc. So there could be a little bit of a catalyst. But at the moment, any pullback into 5,000 still is a zone where bulls are trying to keep that area bid for a continuation higher. At some point, should price fail to hold that pivot, that's when we could see a return back lower. But again, we could just be in a holding period as we head into the inauguration to see how everything goes heading into the next week's trading. And from there, we may begin to see more and more volatility pick up. So taking a look at the intraday time frame now. Again, you can see here the previous session, not a whole lot to do. For the most part, there was only one real trade recommendation in the trading room, which was buying this dip here for a shot at looking at 50-50. And you can see here price hit 50-50 right on the dot. And that was it. It was a 20 handle move into that zone, and from there price came right back to value and just kind of hung out the rest of the day. So right now you can see that price tried to hold above that 50-50 zone briefly pre-market and failed, came back below it, and then it's been retested here. So at the moment it appears bears are trying to keep 50-50 offered short term for perhaps a return to 5-day VPOC, which is going to be 50.34. But right now we're in a short-term trading range. Not a whole lot to do unless the edges are tested. So right now, if price were to test 65s, it could be a fade back down. And down here, 50.25, again, any test below those levels and a rejection would bring it back up toward value. So right now, it's kind of a fade the edges type of environment. And if you don't see what you like, then it's best to stay on the sidelines and just force the market to make you trade right now, because the trading environment, the pace and tempo is not really there at the moment, but there are some opportunities like that buy opportunity in the NQ yesterday. So just be patient and wait for the setups to come to you. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.